All right, here we go again. Different matchup this time, though. This is me with Edric versus Grand Arbiter Augustine. And I think I am going second. This is one of the nastiest generals in the entire format if it's combined with a Soul Ring or Mana Crypt draw. In fact, it's almost unbeatable if they have it with one of those two cards. And there's obviously a lot of other combinations, things like Ancient Tomb into a Signet into turn 2. Grand Arbiter is also almost unbeatable. It gives you such an insane tempo advantage. It's almost impossible to recover from. And this hand is right on the edge of unplayable. But it does have a few things that matter. I have a Force of Will to stop a quick Grand Arbiter. I can potentially regrow the Force of Will with Eternal Witness. And I have Sower to snag Grand Arbiter too. So if I'm able to draw a couple more mana here, a creature, something like that, I think I can get right back into it. So even though this hand is very borderline keepable, I think it has enough early defense to justify keeping it. I could certainly draw worse and have plenty of times. Sword of Feast and Famine. That is not what we were looking for. I'm just going to play an island here since I have no intention of fetching and thinning my deck of land. Alright, Ancient Tomb. So I'm going to have to deal with turn 3 guy. Fabricate. Alright, I'm certainly not going to counter that. And he gets... What does he get off the Fabricate? Azorius Signet. Now that's very interesting. It means you may not have white mana. God, this hand sucks. Jesus Christ. Alright. Now what's going to happen here? So he plays a land first. It's very interesting here. If he had not played a land here, if he had just cast the Ancient Tomb, I probably would have Force of Willed. And I probably would have thrown away Treachery. Assuming that if Unified Will has some value, especially if I draw a fetch land, a green fetch land, then I can immediately fetch up Dryad Arbor and Unified Will on the following turn. But because of that, I decide I can't actually counter the Signet, even though it means I might have to discard next turn. It's just the Force of Will is too valuable, and especially when he's got 2 blue mana here, I could just get crushed. So I'm just going to have to hope that that's his only mana. He doesn't have enough mana to cast Grand Arbiter and counter next turn. Come on. Oh, Soul Ring of my own. I'm glad I didn't fetch. So I play this. He has no counter. I'm going to go get Tropical Island. So I play a Sword of Fire and Ice. This is obviously entirely 100% bait. I thought long and hard about the sword, which sword to play. And I really, really wanted him to counter here because I need to be able to force on the next turn. And he's got a Remand, which is completely awesome. Especially if he has another land. Yep, and he's got it. So the fact that he remanded the sword there means that I feel, at least cast this with some degree of confidence that it'll work, and sure enough it does. If he had a remand there, holy crap, I'd be so screwed. So bait spell number 1 works. One thing as a Magic player, whenever you're playing against potential counters, is try to figure out, whenever you're dealing with counters and you expect them to have them, try to figure out what card you can afford to lose that they probably can't afford not to counter. It's often the way to deal with it, especially when you're behind in mana and you're trying to basically just play cards as bait. Because a lot of the time people will bait with stuff that the other person just doesn't care about. And then it doesn't work at all because you can't get the counters out of their hand if you play stuff that they don't care about. So I played the sword on purpose because I figured he'd care a lot more about it than the black-green sword. Alright, so I draw Muddle, which sucks because I really, really need another mana here in case if he taps out to play Grand Arbiter now, with one more land I can Sower it. But just sitting here on 4 mana, and I'm actually just leaving 4 mana open here as a bluff. I didn't feel that transmuting Muddle was worth it because if he does in fact call my bluff and play Grand Arbiter, then or if I transmute into Muddle and get, I don't know, like maybe Snap, possibly Gilded Drake. There's a couple of different options for it. But he might play Grand Arbiter and have the ability to counterspell again with a single land, which would be really bad for me. Sorry, I had to pause there for a second. Okay, where was I? Anyway, yeah, so discussing about whether or not to tap out here to play something. I don't see the point in playing anything right now. I think that running the potential counterspell here is more important, especially because he would probably have to tap out to cast Grand Arbiter at this point. And at least bluffing 4 mana will make him think about whether or not to do that. And additionally, I could play Edric, but if he plays Grand Arbiter, I don't have the ability to play one of my swords and equip right away. The best thing I could hope for would be to draw a land and be able to sower his guy and attack, which isn't a terrible play, and maybe that would have been correct. But I kind of didn't really want to get Edric countered here. He also might just play some sort of blue sorcery or instant as well, or any sorcery or instant for that matter, and the Muddle could help me out here. So I decided to just leave myself untapped. So he plays Wayfarer's Bauble, which is strange. All right, leaving 3 blue mana untapped, which is certainly telling. All right, we really need to draw land. All right, well, that's a land. It's not the end of the world. All right, well, now, given the fact that I'm going to have to tap out anyway, I decided to transmute Muddle. And we're going to go get Gilded Drake. Now, this is totally a bluff. This is basically just me saying to him, please don't have any, please don't play your general without protection. Which means that if he doesn't have a counterspell in these 4 cards, he might be reluctant to actually play the Grand Arbiter. So this is a way of sort of preempting his general and scaring him away from playing it, because right now I don't really have a great way of dealing with it at all. Especially because I have to tap out there because I'm playing the Simic Guild Chamber, or the Simic Growth Chamber. And sure enough, he does nothing. Nothing at all. It just says go. Doesn't play his general. It worked perfectly. All right, we draw a Misty Rainforest, which is good. Still have no counters. So I'm going to play the sword here, and this is bait again. Dissolve. Insane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He could have actually played Grand Arbiter and had a Dissolve as backup as well, which boggles my mind. I don't know why he didn't do that. I'm going to go get Breeding Pool. I'm going to Eternal Witness. The intention of getting Force of Will, of course. Exclude. Ugh. Kicking the balls. All right. But still, reluctant to play as general. Even with the ability to counterspell. It's strange. All right, so we're going to play Den Protector here. Figuring I have the ability to flip it and grab Muddle the Mixture if I need it. Or potentially Force of Will as well. If I need to counterspell again, I've certainly got superfluous junk in my hand. Alright, what's he up to? Future Sight. Alright, well, there is no path to victory, I think, that involves Future Sight in play. So, we're going to have to Megamorph, grab Force of Will, and pray. And he does not have another counter. Thanks to him dissolving the sword, he can't stop, or he can't protect his Future Sight. So I'm still in this. Wooded Foothills is not bad. I'm going to play my sword. No counter. I don't really, honestly, I'm not reading him for any counters at all right now. I'm not really sure what he's got, but I do not think there's a counter among them. I'm just going to go grab some land, get Edric going. And if this connects here, we may just have suddenly won the game. And it does. All right, untap, draw a counterspell, please. He throws away Vivid Meadow. All right, I got a Wasteland too. Can't use it yet. Cycles Lonely Sandbar. Wrath. All right, that's fine. Down to 1 card in hand, and I think he suspends Ancestral Visions. Yeah, he suspends Ancestral Visions. 1 card in hand now. Holy cow. All right. I'm going to get rid of that Ancient Tomb. Equip Edric. All right, and he does nothing again. Obviously, he doesn't feel remotely safe about casting his general, and if he were to play it now, it would be very bad for him due to the treachery. And I just drew Mystical Tutor. So what's the play here? The play is stack Edric, cast Tutor, getting... What would you get? Bunch of choices, actually. Getting Natural Order isn't crazy. I could sack Edric and bury 3 more islands. But I don't really see the point of doing that, actually. I'm going to get the card that is a veritable lock in this situation because of the sword and him only having 2 cards in hand, which is Mighty Forbid. Put Forbid on top, draw it, untap. And he throws away land tax. So with 1 card in hand and a sword and me having 3 extra cards in hand, he is practically locked out of the game here. But he's not going to give up quite yet. Recurring Insight. Well, that is a funny thing to forbid due to the fact that it shrinks my hand size. Even if he has a counterspell here, he won't get any cards off of it. We're just going to, I'm going to tap correctly. I'm going to forbid and throw away the old Gilded Drake. And this is a bluff as well. This is, please cast your general for me. Brainstorm is really nice. Opposition, normally backbreakingly powerful, but here, not so good, because I've somehow managed to draw only a couple creatures. So we're going to just hang on to it for now, because I intend to throw it away to forbid if I need to. That clears the last card out of his hand. How's that draw? So at this point, 0 cards in hand, getting sceptered every turn by Sword of Feast and Famine, and I have forbid. And I'm drawing 2 cards a turn. Seems like it's inevitable now. But he's not going to give up without a fight. He finally plays Grand Arbiter, which I'm happy to see. And he has 1 card in hand. So I've got my Treachery. I could just go to Treachery Grand Arbiter Augustine. But if he has a counterspell in his hand, the situation kind of backfires, actually. It doesn't really work out too well for me, especially because the Treachery costs 6. If I play a land, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If I play a land and I cast Treachery, that costs 6. Forbid costs 4. If he miracled into a counterspell, then actually he could counter back and the Treachery would not resolve, and he'd have Grand Arbiter going. And then, even worse, this would go off next turn. So with that in mind, I decide it's correct to attack first, because if he doesn't block, he loses whatever's in his hand. If he does block, I just kill off Grand Arbiter, and then I can just counter arbitrarily not only the thing that he's cast, or the Ancestral Visions, but whatever else he draws on the next turn. So we're just going to run this in. He does not block. Look at that. Arcane Denial. He did, in fact, draw a counterspell, and it costs 1 mana, too, to go back to that earlier situation where he could have played Grand Arbiter and had potentially the ability to counter for 1 mana. So I got an elf. And now that I know the path is clear, I can safely cast Treachery. I'm just holding all this stuff so that I can forbid without any guilt, because there's no way in hell I'm going to let him resolve that. And I throw away Island and Elvish Mystic. And with the writing on the wall, facing forbid and me drawing 3 cards a turn now, he wisely decides to pack it in. Anyway, I thought this was a really neat game, because I feel like, obviously, based on the way that things started out, it could have gone very, very wrong. If I had, I think, cast spells in the wrong order and not attracted the early counters to get my important cards through, I could have easily lost this game. If he had managed to get Grand Arbiter out, I think, at any point in time, and resolved the Future Sight with his counters, that would have been game over for sure. So just when your back is against a wall like that, try to get the most out of your resources, and bluff when you need to, and tap out when you need to, and just hope that your forces of will will carry the day. Anyway, hopefully I'll have some other good games down the road, and hope you enjoyed these two. See you guys later.